Remember, no bad words for the first 30 seconds.
I think that you mentioning this actually takes up most of that time. Therefore,
No, we still got 15 seconds. But good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome to 2 hours of pure chaos. We are going to be talking about what makes a sci-fi character great, or what sci-fi characters you think are great. Feel free to chime in the comment section, or if you want, I'll drop the link here. Yeah, might as well do that now, and give the people a chance to come in and hang out. Just as long as we keep it semi-organized. Yeah, I know, right? But I'm going to start with the first basic question, and I'm going to hit Connell up first. Then I'm going to go over to Omanal and let the little guy have a little time to think about it. Because
I already have an answer.
Okay, well then we'll go. Connell, restoration, blah blah blah, and then Omen. Sorry, Omen, you'll be last, but I'll let you go first with the next one. And Connell, who is your favorite sci-fi character? Big screen, small screen, book, comic book. Who's your favorite sci-fi character?
Well, I guess I should have asked this before. When we brought sci-fi, we're talking about outer space sci-fi or sci-fi as a whole.
As a whole, I mean, what? I mean, you can include science fantasy if you want, like Star Wars.
Okay. My favorite sci-fi character, Roy breaks down to two because I really enjoyed Ronan off of Stargate Atlantis. I said this earlier. But it is kind of a toss-up. I really liked him and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde growing up. The split of the two personalities.
Uh-huh. They both count. I would consider Jekyll and Hyde low-end sci-fi, but for its time, it was probably,
It's not fantasy. It was all science. There was no magical shit.
Everything could be considered fantasy if you want to look at it from a certain way, I guess. Personally, I don't have a problem with that, but I like to keep them in their little niches so that anybody I'm talking to isn't really confused. It's not ambiguous. If I say science fantasy, most people realize we're talking Star Wars, or some sort of anime type of thing, or video games like Fantasy Star Wars or Final Fantasy were both science fantasy, if you will. But so why are they your favorite characters?
I thought the concept for Ronan was very interesting. A warrior that was basically hunted down. He was used as prey by the Wraiths, if I'm remembering it correctly. And it's kind of, what can a person go through and still survive? Keep their humanity intact after what kind of bumps they go through. It's a very, I guess, European look at things, and compared to like American, where the good guy always wins at the end. Where in like Shakespeare, for example, that's not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because back in the day, we were very used to winning, and Europeans were very used to losing. So
depends on the European country.
True. If you're France, then until recently you were very used to winning, and if you were most other countries next to France, you were very used to losing.
That's not exactly fair either. And to same question on the fair, and the question for the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. What evilness do men keep in their heart? How depraved is a person? Is there is there a potion? Not potion. Is there a drug per se that we could take that separates the two? The Hulk versus the Banner, Dr. Hyde, Mr. Hyde, Jackal. And I always thought that was an interesting concept. I mean, there's been, the not the Japanese. There's been different concepts of it throughout different cultures. There's a Native American one I know of, where there's two wolves inside of us, one good, one bad, and whichever one you feed is the one who wins. And to have
I always thought of the Joker as like the kind of like the modern day permanent version of Mr. Hyde in a way.
No, more. You think of more Two-Face, because as much as one side of him wants to be good, the other side is fuck this.
No, that's why I said permanent. Like he's permanently the chemical version of the bad side of himself. Just just permanently out and the good side tucked away.
Right.
Howdy, James L. Hope you are feeling better soon.
Sorry.
Okay, who's got the echo? Jack?
Yes?
Do you have echo? Is that where it's coming from?
No. That was me. I was trying to bring up the I forgot to mute, and so I was putting this up so I could see the chat. That's all.
Okay. Sport. It's your turn. Right. Favorite sci-fi character and why?
Okay, so I think I already told you, but Anakin Skywalker.
Okay.
Such a whiner. And he leaves. Like Anakin.
What did you do, monkey?
He couldn't take the heat. No.
Technical difficulties, I'm certain. There he is.
Hello.
Explain yourself.
Explain yourself? I'm not going to.
Well, you got to. I'll put you in timeout.
I did that to myself already.
No, seriously, we're curious.
Okay, have you seen the Clone Wars?
Are you talking about the
yes.
Which one, the movie or the series?
I watched the movie. Isn't that good?
Well, I agree with you there. I'm just clarifying of which one. I'm sorry, that was Attack of the Clones. No, the Clone Wars series I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, the Clone Wars series. The first few seasons are kind of bad, but the latter seasons are really good. So the two reasons why I like Anakin. Number one, Attack of the Clones. I like watching that movie because it's really bad. But more importantly, just him in the Clone Wars is like unironically very good. It's what you should have gotten in those movies, but instead George Lucas was too obsessed with sand.
George Lucas's problem was that he was more interested in getting his ILM to show off their technical capabilities than trying to tell a story.
Yeah, that was the real problem. I know how funny sand, but like that was the actual problem that he was facing, was that he just, I mean, that he didn't really, there's a lot of examples you can point to George Lucas being bad at writing. That's the main example. There are examples there are no better examples. I'll say that much. Mostly because in reality he isn't actually that bad of a writer. It's just, well, I mean, you all know.
So what about him? Like what qualities did you admire or appreciate with the animated version of Anakin?
That's a
was it just mostly his power and his ability, or was it something about his personality?
Wait, hold up! I got to do something real quick.
Okay.
Actually, I'm talking to it at the same time. Just I don't know. I couldn't point to any particular thing and say that is what I liked. It's just a general. I don't know.
So well, let's go through whether a story arc or something like that, because I always felt that the movies did a great injustice to the whole thing.
They did. I mean, there's a reason why the prequels are my favorite era, but the movies were just so. I mean, the last movie was good. Revenge of the Sith was good. It's just Attack of the Clones is a thing that exists.
It's well, the problem that I had with it was, and this is the problem I had with a lot of them, is if you want to go through classic story, if you don't mind me talking up, then I'll shut up. But if you look at it, is if they had made Anakin older, they had made him a weak Jedi or weak in the Force, it would have given so much more. Because one is, if he'd been older, they could have done the Natalie Portman, Padme, romance a lot better at the beginning. That's
that was weird.
That instead of it having when he's little, instead of saying he was a powerful Jedi, all you had to do is do this, and then you could have made him a starship pilot, which I thought would have been better overall. And then, as you're going through it, then he could have gone under Obi-Wan's wing. You could have realized the Jedi don't like him because he's not, because they trained him from generally almost like birth. In the meantime, if he was in his 20s, you go, wait a minute, you're too old. All the stuff that Yoda was saying about Luke Skywalker, if they had done something more like that. And then you could understand that he would have become embittered towards the Jedi, and that would have explained why he was hunting them down. And that's what the Emperor could have done. To me, that would have been a much better arc. But George Lucas, I think, got too much into the hype and the member berries. And I have to do this. I mean, come on. Boba Fett was one of the worst bounty hunters in the entire life. He was beaten by a blind man who accidentally hit him in the back. And they're like, well, because he's so cool looking, we got to make him kick ass. I'm like, he couldn't hit anything on him.
Okay, and you get,
I'm right, even if you don't like it.
Probably going to say Boba Fett for his pick.
Boba Fett is one of my favorite characters, but I'm going to let Omen out tell us about his favorite character and why he or she is his favorite character.
I have several, but let's go with one of my favorites from Babylon 5, Lando Mollari.
Good point.
Because he had the whole arc. He went from a man who had nothing and was gambling away his life. That was he was put on Babylon 5 as a backwater and as a joke. And he nearly brought about, he later becomes emperor and nearly brings about the entire fall of the Centauri race. And he goes over from hating the Narn to actually freeing them and making his bitterest enemy, Jakar, his best friend. I mean, I don't think there's, while there's a lot of the human aspect, I really think Babylon 5 revolves around those two, is Jakar and Mollari. So much in there. And, the fact that he, the road to hell's paved with good intentions. I just love the whole thing with Mr. Morton when he goes over, what do you want, Mollari? And he goes, you know what I want? And he goes this whole spiel. And he gets it. And then he realizes what horror, be careful what you wish for, you might get it. And that's the whole thing. I love that whole arc with him. And, you can look at the way that he interacts with Veer Koto, who is this idealistic young man, and he's trying to break him of that. And then you can see that Mollari, when he was talking about with his wives, I always love that one thing, pestilence, death. He's talking about his 3 wives. He has some great lines in there. He's funny. He's compassionate. He is torn. He is brutal. It's everything in there, and it's a truly 3-dimensional character that I like. Whereas, and I love Sheridan. I think Sheridan and Delenn are very kind of shallow compared to him and Jakar.
Right, but you know what? You're just reinforcing my belief that Babylon 5 was Lord of the Rings in space. You got Aragorn and Arwen, which is Sheridan and Delenn. You've got Legolas and Gimli, Londo and Jakar.
Oh yeah,
and you've even got season 5 that sucks ass. Just like the Scouring of the Shire. You got season 1, which is like, that whole long journey through 100 pages of the Council of Elrond that just drags on until it finally starts getting good. It's like that was his intention, was to make Lord of the Rings a sci-fi story.
There's so much in there, but I think that he. And I don't want to get too much of Babylon 5. I think the whole thing of, the question of order versus chaos, and you can't go with only one versus the other. You need a combination of both. And what's interesting is there's so many great characters in there. I think Babylon 5, it's a real travesty. I think that if it had come out 10 years later, when we had streaming and DVD, so you could watch it immediately from season to season, it would have done so much better. But the problem was it kept almost getting canceled every season, and that made it very hard for them to drag it across.
Yeah.
So okay, that's my view. Is Lando Malari.
That's a fantastic choice, because everything you just said is absolutely true, and it's such a sad story in the end. His ultimate fate is just, it's so bad we don't even get to see it.
Well, what I like about it was, if you go in the early season, he says he keeps having a dream that Jakar is going to strangle him. And that's why he hates Jakar. And then yet at the very end, you find out that he asked Jakar to strangle him so he doesn't lose the, where he's being taken over.
Yep. We got two people here who are not there yet in the story, so I don't want to spoil it for them. But I can't wait till Connell and Jackie can watch it and soak it up and appreciate it for. I mean, if you try to compare it to some other longer-winded sci-fi, all you're going to get is favorites, and nostalgia, and it's where I started. It's my first thing, my first love. I like it. You can't compete with it on a length and breadth of the overall massive amount of story that it is. It's got over 120 episodes plus 3 to 5 2-hour movies. Sure, Star Trek can compare with it, but Star Trek was always kind of episodic, and you could mix up a lot of the episodes and it wouldn't matter. Later on, it did matter, but it didn't have this really long, drawn-out, intense, serialized story where you had to watch them in order. If you watched, 10 random episodes of Star Trek, you'd get the whole story. You know what I mean?
Well, the other thing I loved about Babylon 5, just from the story aspect, is it did callbacks to previous seasons. And threads that were laid in season 1 or season 2 came out in season 3 or season 4. And that's something I think is really missing nowadays, is that they want the payoff so early. And yet when you see the payoff, like I love when Veer talks to Mr. Morton. Well, Veer, what do you want? And Mr. Morton gets so angry, and then they do the callback. What is it, 2 seasons later? I mean, that's just classic. And it goes through all of this where they talk about it. Or what is it? What was her name? She was in the beginning, and then they brought her back for season 3. Was what was the redhead with the Vorlon?
Oh yeah. Talia, not Talia.
Yeah.
I thought Talia was
she's the blonde.
Yeah. You know what she ended up doing after Babylon 5?
Talia went over, the lady that did Talia, she married Mr. Garibaldi in real life before they got divorced again, and then she became a CNN anchor.
She was also a weather girl for quite a while on some nowhere little station in Arizona.
That's weird.
I saw her just flipping through the channels one day, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Because she was quite a looker and quite talented, and then just completely off the radar. And I didn't know she actually married Garibaldi. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. They got married, and I think they had a kid, and then they got divorced a few years later. And I know that she went over to work for CNN for a little bit.
Maybe she went from CNN to that station that I saw, or vice versa. But yeah, that's really That's really weird. I would have never pictured them together, is what I mean.
Oh, exactly. And then he became a. Didn't he go to Congress? He became a congressman.
Did he really?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense if you think about it. At least from the way he portrayed his character. Speaking of characters, and see, now I'm torn. See, Boba Fett was my first favorite sci-fi character as a kid because I was a kid. He was cool, mysterious, never said a damn word, looked like he could handle anything, had all the cool equipment, the jetpack, the flamethrower, the blasters on his hands, the freaking missile on his back. I mean, it was just pure geeky, dorky, kid fandom. Plus, back in the day when Star Wars first came out, there was this off-brand cereal that if you took 2 box tops and mailed them in, you'd get a Boba Fett action figure that had the shooting missile off his back. And I did it, and I got one. My parents were like, wow, I didn't believe you'd ever get that in the mail. I got it. It went up to $10,000 in value.
Wow.
Yeah, I am not even kidding.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen collectors talk about it because they thought it originally got recalled because the racket pack that they thought kids were going to choke on it, so they sent out another one where the rocket never came out.
Yep. And
Sorry.
Yeah, it was a real thing, and the cereal only existed for like 1 season. But yet, Battle Creek, Michigan, pumped those things out. I got one. It was my favorite toy for a long ass time, and then I grew up. So that was the kid me. Bringing up Babylon 5 makes me torn between 2 very similar characters.
Marcus, the Ranger?
No.
Okay.
Very similar to a new character that I just discovered thanks to James L., which was Care Avon from Blake 7 in such a schlocky 70s/80s sci-fi British TV show. It was absolutely unlike anything I had seen before. And mind you, I just finished watching it for the first time last month. I actually subscribed to BritBox just so I could watch it. James L. said, "You're going to love it." I watched it, and Care Avon isn't even the main character at the beginning, but he becomes the main character later on because Blake of Blake 7 leaves the freaking show in season 2. Okay? And he was just a bastard. Know-it-all, super genius, was always freaking right, but such a freaking smeghead.
Meg.
He was just absolutely amazing, and I will never, ever be able to thank James L. for getting me to finally bite the bullet. I mean, I heard of Blake 7 growing up, and I just never got a chance to watch it.
I mean, not even.
And one of the reasons I probably like him so much is because the Babylon 5 character that was my favorite was Bester.
Oh,
Bester
yes,
the bastard.
Well,
If
we were going to talk about our favorite Babylon 5 characters so far, I have to say mine is Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, I just trust me. Get further on, and you might like Zathras.
No, I mean, I like the one that has a fan, the haircut that looks like
Blondo Malari.
I
You
like
will love him.
I do. I really do
him.
like that character, but I was watching Babylon 5 over a friend's house because we were playing Babylon 5, the war game, and I was playing anyways, and they had it on in the background, and some guy was basically torturing the woman with the bone crown on her head. Later to find out that was Jack the Ripper. I'm like, what the actual fuck?
Yeah, it makes more sense later on. Trust me. Real quick, James L., you must have had an incredible grandpa to make you a TARDIS. I can't even imagine what that must have been like as a kid, all the adventures you must have been able to have. We just, I can just picture.
I'm gonna break this down for James L. It was a porta potty. He just took out the toilet.
Oh, that's not nice.
No, that's
Let
awesome.
him have his fantastic memories. And yes, James, Blake 7 was very, very special. If you guys haven't watched it and you like old schlocky stuff, especially old Doctor Who, then you gotta go catch it. It's 4 seasons of just, it's unlike every single thing about it is so unlike all the other sci-fi shows out there. The very beginning, I couldn't believe some of the things I was seeing and hearing in the very first episode. And back to Bester, I actually got to meet Walter Koenig a long time ago. I got his autograph on a comic book, and he was a pretty down to earth, neat guy. But that character, Owen, you got to back me up here, man. When he was on the screen, he stole the damn show. No, kindly, lovable Chekhov was Bester. He was the God, I can't even think of the words to describe what a rat bastard he was. but at the same time, J. Michael Straczynski had the wherewithal and the genius to show you behind that evil mask. If you remember, toward the end, you get to see behind that, to see that he had some actual humanity in him. Not much, barely enough to fill a tablespoon, but some was there.
Yes, he wasn't truly a psychopath, but he was about as close as you could get while still being somewhat human. But no. And Connell, how far along are you in Babylon 5 now? I know.
Season 1.
No. I mean, what episode?
I think it's the last one.
Okay. Just trust me. Once you get to Sheridan, things improve a lot for season 2. Then it really starts picking up.
As of right now, I'm doing my big brother a big boon by watching Adventure Brothers.
Oh yeah, well, that was just fun.
Ooh.
I mean, that
is
And
a hell of a
I just
choice,
want to
man.
kill the 2 boys. I want to grab them by their throats,
dude.
rip them
Doesn't
out.
everybody?
Hank Venture is the coolest fucking character in that show. By the end,
ever living fuck out of both of them if I was their age in that cartoon.
Oh no! Wait a minute. Wait till you find out who's the other one that gets over.
Dermot.
What's
Dermot?
Yeah.
The other blonde kid.
Yeah.
Trust me, Hank will become. Trust me, Hank is being trained by Brock Sampson from practically birth. Okay, and the whole time his dad is playing favorites with the other kid. Okay.
Yeah.
Trust me, he's the way he is, but he becomes more than just competent. I'm just going to put it that way. He's the Venture brother. He's the Venture brother that Big Daddy Venture would be the proudest of.
Well,
that might be fair. I'm just telling you where I'm at right now in the show.
That's
season
okay.
one. Season 1, he's a schmuck. He's kind of weak.
Well,
Let me catch up with James Dale here.
Yeah. Oh. He's laughing because I said it was a porta potty. So that's why I was just laughing. No, that's cool. I mean, it's fantastic if your grandfather did that. That's so, yeah.
I mean, I like to say I liked Worf. I mean, the whole reason why I watched Next Generation was because of Worf.
You know what? When they got rid of Tasha Yar,
The show got better.
No, come on, it got a lot better. No, Tasha. You know what I thought was funny was Denise Richards. I'm going to leave Star Trek and blah.
Oh,
blah,
I know,
blah.
right?
And she just flopped. And the problem was they killed off her character. And then what really gets me about the whole thing is that she comes back in later episodes, but she's like a Romulan or stuff like that. You know, when they put the makeup on.
Yeah, I'm starting to notice a trend there, Connell, with your favorite. What was his name from Stargate?
I like Warriors, but yeah, Ronan.
Yeah. You like the big, silent, one-trick ponies when it comes to the Warriors.
Have you seen my characters? Have you seen my D&D characters?
Fair enough.
Well, you know
yeah, totally fair enough.
You know what's funny is the characters I enjoyed the most to watch are the ones that I do not like to play. Because I kind of like the large, like how you like to do paladins. I kind of like the good, fighter types. But man, I really love the charismatic, backstabbing, like you said with Bester. Oh, I mean, they're just so great.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Connell, if you get a chance, once you get back to Babylon 5, Season 2 vastly improves, and it just keeps improving. And actually, I'm kind of surprised that you didn't like Marcus the Ranger as much in Babylon 5.
Yeah. Well, he's got to get to him.
Yeah.
He's got dark hair, a mustache. He acts like he's from the Middle Ages. He's a British actor.
Oh, okay.
And what's funny is he was on Third Rock from the Sun in 1 or 2 episodes, where I think he was like dating the big blonde chick who, well, whatever. And if you ever saw it, you know what I'm talking about, because the character was like incredibly pompous and then at the same time a big, huge fanboy for river dancing.
I mean, honestly, going back to, this is a kind of saying the sci-fi theme. I always liked Andromeda. I can never say the name.
Andromeda.
Yeah, it wasn't. I liked the Nietzscheans. I love that type of character. Tyr.
Yeah, I remember. It was a good show. It was actually a really good show. It was really underrated. And one of these days I'll have to get it, the box set, and go through it again, because I know I missed some stuff. Real quick, James, you and me both. One of these days I'm going to have to show you a photograph of a girl I used to date who looked just like her, but with longer hair, and was pretty much just as evil.
But
because Sutherland was the villain, the evil empress, not empress, but president of the Federation in Blake 7, and God, she was just like that, gorgeous as hell, but evil as the day is long. Like Bester she was Bester's mother, basically, I think.
What show? I don't think I don't think the group that we would have would appreciate me playing the scoundrel I'd love to play in D&D. I just don't think it'd work out well.
Well, not in this particular game, and that's probably partially my fault. But Bruce said, "Hey, he was telling me about this Paladin campaign." And I'm like, "Fuck, I want in." He's like, "Okay, make up a character," and I'm the only Paladin in it. I'm like, I thought everybody was playing a Paladin. What the hell? And while I like playing Paladins for the challenge, and the fact that I've only done so this is the second Paladin in 42 years I've ever played. Even as an NPC, I had one character that was technically lawful good, but not a Paladin, as an NPC. But I wanted to play a challenge. Getting back in, I think it was my first experience as a player in 25 years. So I wanted the challenge. I wanted to play the toughest character to play, technically, in my opinion. I could be wrong. That being a Paladin in Bruce's game. But in Bloodworth's game, I'm playing a magic user. In Conan, Crafty Matt Craft Conan game, I was technically running kind of like a knight. So it's not much of a stretch, but I had pre-gens to choose from, so I went, okay, I'll go with something I know. Normally, I like to play the equivalent of multi-classed elves, fighter magic user thief, something with magic user and something to back it up with if I had my choice. That's my go-to is magic user something in a fantasy game. In a sci-fi game, I'm kind of like right there with you, Connell. I like to run like the the gunslinger, basically. The fighter who it's just him and his gun, have gun will travel, cowboy in space. That's kind of my go-to.
What was that movie? I know it's not sci-fi, but I could definitely. I'd love to find a sci-fi version of it. But it's an old Clint Eastwood movie, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, and just play the character that doesn't talk. But he's the baddest son of a bitch there, but he doesn't talk.
That doesn't work well in a role-playing game.
It doesn't. And you go to sci-fi, Ronan, Jane from Firefly, all he does is really bitch. But, the same concept.
Same thing.
I like characters that are more real. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Mel, but I don't have the Mel type of personality.
I mean, Mal.
Mal?
He was on my list, but he was too easy a pick. If you think about it, you had to be a real prick not to think that Malcolm Reynolds was a cool character. It's kind of like it's too easy a pick.
He's the type of guy that I would follow into battle, hands down, no questions asked.
That said, my favorite was still the pilot. I can never remember.
Wash.
Yeah, Wash. Alan Tudyk to me is just wherever he goes, I would love to watch whatever show he's in, just because he plays with a certain amount of joy.
Watch him in Knight's Tale.
I've seen that. The other one I liked is, if we're going to talk about that, is I liked Book.
Book? Oh yeah.
I hate to be sexist because that's totally my reasoning. Inara was technically my favorite character.
No. I bet she was there, big boy.
I don't like you anymore.
Don't get me wrong. She was the easiest on the eyes, and I really liked her for that. But what got me was as far as characters, she was kind of flat. I hate saying this. Whereas I liked Book because Book had a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and I really felt
as characters. I'm like, no, she has a decent set.
No.
With Inara, there maybe it's because I read a lot about the characters that wasn't in the show. Like the fact that she was technically dying of an incurable disease during the whole story.
Oh, really?
During the whole show. Yeah. She was going to die. That's why she wouldn't hook up with Mal, because she knew she was dying.
Oh, I thought. Well, that explains why she also was leaving and not staying. And
that would have killed Mal. That would have killed him outrightly.
Absolutely. And the fact that it comes from Arduin, the Corsian or whatever they were copying from, that was like kind of a real thing, and they were more spies than hookers than anything. They had like this Bene Gesserit sort of galactic-wide organization that just had the entire universe by the balls. When Baron talked about the Strippers Guild, that's what he's talking about. Well, we never saw.
What it reminds me of is, and I know they took it from, was the geisha, who did
Absolutely.
all these things. And the problem is that everyone views it as, even my mother, when she was in Japan in the 50s, they're like, they are not prostitutes. Even if that's maybe part of their function, it's like, no, they are so far above you. You're not, it's like, saying, I'm going to pay like $50,000 a night for a hooker. You're like, only a certain select group ever gets in that area.
Exactly. That's why I thought she was kind of an interesting character, and it was a brave choice by Joss Whedon to make a character like that, especially during that time. Nowadays,
the 90s, he could have got away with it. In the 90s, he could get away with it. If it was a decade earlier in the 80s, hell no. Now, hell no.
But I mean, it was still kind of a, he was the first one to do it. Let's put it that way.
Right.
In Western culture, to make a character like that was, and she was no slouch. I mean, you got to like the fact that she knew what she was doing with a bow, and she chose a bow of all things when there were plenty of guns lying around.
As an archer, I do appreciate that. But here's a question here. If you watch, I know we're still talking about sci-fi, so we're talking about characters that we like in sci-fi. Yeah. So, I don't want to go too far out in the weeds as we normally do, but to stay in this, this area. In the movie Serenity, The black gentleman that goes after Mel and them.
Yes.
I like that character.
He
He wasn't a bad guy. He was a necessary evil, but he wasn't a bad guy.
Absolutely. He was an interesting choice.
I liked that is what he is. It was a fanatical zealot.
I wouldn't even say that.
Oh no, he absolutely was. He was absolutely a fanatical zealot. But the thing was, and I, it's
Is that always bad?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it is because at a certain point is you start losing your focus of what's good and bad because now that's the problem that I had with it is when he starts killing off that other lady. Oh, you let them go through and he kills off a couple of them. Like, they didn't deserve to die.
See, the problem with zealots is some of them have a code, and I can appreciate that. That guy had a code. But when you go into religious zealots, even within our own church, Jack, there's God's will, then there's their will, but then there's their will that they're saying God will forgive us for.
I know this. It's just
I'm going to bring up one other part there is the other problem is that in many cases they're taking advantage of what they think is doing good and forces behind the scenes are directing them towards source to do unnecessary evil, though they think they're doing the right thing. That's the problem I have with some of it is, that works out great if you're doing it for the right reasons, but a lot of times is they start using them to be misused, which, I mean, to be fair, that's also what happened a lot with the Crusades and things. Hey, we're going to do this, but that's what I look at is they, we'll point them in a direction for someone that's annoying us or bothering us. And I mean, the same thing happened if you watched Wanted, where they're like going to use the.
I love that movie.
So, when we start using characters like that, is you start saying, okay, you're going to be a tool that I'm going to use, and I'm going to use you in a way that you should have never been used. Anyway, sorry about that, but I agree with you.
But the other thing was in that whole TV series. There's several episodes I love, but my favorite episode, and this is the episode that I use with certain people to explain me. It's where Mel was defending the honor of the whore, using his words.
Yeah,
and he's having that duel. What?
To a point.
Yeah,
there does come a point where he doesn't get to call her that anymore.
Right. This is like mid-season.
I remember, and at the end he says, "Well, if I was a good man," and he stabs him a couple more times. Yeah,
I'm that guy. I would, stabbing the son of a bitch. I'm of the belief if somebody comes after you, you put them down. Because if you don't put them down, then they'll come after you later on, and that's tomorrow's,
I'm going to bring up one thing from one of my role-playing games, is I had a person that he and I hated. He bullied me in the 8th grade and chased me around and some other stuff, and I just went off. And well, here's the interesting thing. We're playing a D&D game, all right? I went over. The DM didn't like his character that much, and he had built up this Cavaliers, as kick-ass could be. The spider bites him. He fails the saving throw. He's going to die at low level. And I pull out, I forget, it was like marshmallow. It was one of those things in one of the Dragon magazines that gave you a bonus to it. And I came over to get the poison out. I saved his character. He's like, "I love you, man. I love you." And I'm like, "Keep your distance away from me." In real life. And at that point, my view is I would rather turn people to my side than just try humiliating and destroying people, because those people will come back sometimes to really help you out. And I've had this happen a lot of times with people who I don't think I like at the beginning will later on become my friends. So it just
I've had a lot of experiences with that recently.
Yeah, I know you disliked me in the very beginning.
That's not who I'm talking about, but hold on.
Most people do. It's all right.
Yeah, I'm sure there's nobody here. Real quick, James, I don't know how on God's green earth you would pronounce this name, nor have I ever seen this show. you're gonna have to like send me a link to it, because it's got my name in it, and therefore I'm pretty sure they owe me royalties in some fashion. And
I
I
don't
want to
think it
welcome
works that way, brother.
I want to welcome Iron Man into the chat. Good to see you again, bro. Hope you're enjoying the show. I'm going to start the next question here with Omen.
Okay.
Sorry.
What qualities or traits or attributes, if you
There
will,
we go.
would you put into making a great, memorable sci-fi character of your own?
Ooh,
Oh,
yeah.
well, okay. Well, one of the things is I always like I say flawed hero, and not necessarily that they're heroic. I like the flaws where it drives the story, where everyone says, "Oh no, you shouldn't do this," but it makes perfect sense for the character to follow a certain thing. And I use Londo Mollari for that as a perfect example. Is he's a very flawed character, which makes him interesting. And Bester is he has his part, but when you start making him more human, you start understanding his motivations. I think that's part of it. Is it allows the character to develop in ways that you do it. The other thing is that there needs to be an arc. Is a lot of times you want the arc to go from beginning to end. I mean, I still love Luke Skywalker, but when you look at it, he goes through the full transition between, from wide-eyed, naive boy to mature. I will not kill my father. That's part of it. I like that. I want that arc to go through for number one. Number two is I like the sense of mystery. I think we all have the same feeling as we want to learn more about the character, and you can slowly reveal it over time instead of trying to go through it. I just love when you look over and you realize, like for Londo Mollari, every choice he made came back to bite him, and yet you can see in why he did it, and you can see in what horrors that he has from that. And I think that's the other part, is there needs to be a sense of humanity. Sometimes when characters are just all good or all bad, that doesn't make them quite as interesting. I really want the kinds of characters you want to read over and over again. Is it reality? I just those are very interesting. Well, a perfect example, a little bit different though, but the same thing is if you go look at Paul Muad'Dib, for the Atreides, and how he is trying to stop the Great Crusade, and he keeps failing as he's going through it, and you can realize that this is a man really trapped in his fate. You start to realize that he's more trapped by what he sees than someone that's actually determining his future fate. I kind of like that.
That's interesting.
Oh yeah, go if you read the book. I don't know if you have. He talks about how he keeps seeing the future, and how he keeps on trying to evade the future of the jihad, and you find out that is he keeps on going back to it. You're kind of trapped in your fate just by the decisions you make, and that one of the things he talks about is why he can see the future. Sometimes he can't see the short range. He goes, he can't see the like the next 20 minutes or so. He goes, I could end up dead. And he goes, uh-oh. I thought that was very interesting. Don't get me wrong, for villains it's a little bit different, but I think for main protagonists, I like that a lot of the gray, and you can tell where they're doing it for good, and then their more base desires will sometimes put them into bad situations, which snowball out beyond their control.
I can get behind that thought.
Yeah.
Jack, you're next.
Oh, I am. Okay. So, is there a bit of an echo?
No, I don't hear one.
Okay, good, because my dad's in the other room making a cigarette.
Okay, I have a little bit of an echo, but it sounds more like it's because of the room you're in, not because it's going through a different line.
Making a cigarette? Does he grow his own tobacco?
He's rolling a cigarette. Okay, shut up.
Hey, is that any way to talk? Hey, is that any way to talk to your favorite uncle?
I would say you're my second favorite, but does Granduncle really count?
Mm. I don't know.
So let's hear your answers for
Okay,
what qualities or traits would you instill in your creation of a cool sci-fi character?
well, I'm just gonna go by what I told you when you were telling me what we were gonna talk about, and say I don't think that question is phrased right, but I'm not gonna be all pedantic about it. I'm just gonna say, well, one, I am gonna
Fucking
be
dressing down his old man on live TV, man.
yes, I am gonna be pedantic. Screw that.
That's why he's my favorite nephew.
Yeah. So you can't really say like, here's a list. If you use these things, it'll be good. Because the accurate thing to say is just be a good writer, but I am not, so I'm not allowed to say that. But I'll use. I can't think of like. I know I said Anakin Skywalker, but again, I wasn't able to point out something I specifically liked, so I'm not going to do that here because I still can't.
So Jack,
But
let's
yes.
well, if you don't mind, just mention some of your favorite characters, and let's see if we can break down on some of their local, some of the commonalities in them.
That's a good idea, Alvin.
Yeah.
That is a good idea. I don't really know. I mean,
Just throw out names. If we're familiar with them, we'll say, "Oh, it looks like this may be a commonality." Just throw out.
Between the three of us here, Jack, you have probably over 100, if not, you have over hundreds of years of literature, movies, and other stuff between us.
yeah. So that is actually, I'd say Count Dooku, definitely.
Count Dooku, interesting. Okay.
But I don't know. There aren't any standouts that are coming into my mind specifically right now.
Well, you can include, the superhero world as well, because I do fully consider that sci-fi.
Well,
Oh wow. Okay.
I don't.
And
And
Jack,
sand, I don't like that.
and Jack, you can use the Venture Brothers or anybody else. Let's just see what some common character. Because I'll be honest, we're talking about characters. We're saying sci-fi, but the reality of it is, if you pick several characters, you can still take that personality type and move it somewhere else, whether it's sci-fi or fantasy or anywhere else.
Yeah. I mean,
Hey, Jack,
yes.
is it okay if we just come back to you so you get a little bit more
Yes.
time to think? Maybe that would help you out. So, we suddenly put you on the spot, and now you're like,
Yeah.
Is that okay, Sport?
I already said yes. So yes.
Okay, sorry, I got wind chimes out here.
Oh.
So, Connell, you're up.
I know. If I was making my ideal character for a sci-fi setting, it's a mixture between Han Solo,
Good
the
choice.
cockiness of Han Solo, the intelligence and humbleness of Booker from Firefly.
Mhm.
I know you can't be humble and cocky, but there's a
Mal was both.
It was a self-confidence aspect.
right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Han Solo, Booker, and I like broken. I like, maybe because I consider myself a broken person, I like broken people.
So can you think of a character that you're thinking of in particular that's broken?
Tyrion Lannister, but that's not sci-fi.
Well, yeah, but I think we're getting the idea of the personality types.
I think a good hero has to be broken to one degree either, either it's a loss of a loved one because of a war, the war itself,
Batman.
or he comes from a bastard of a family and he is set out to not be like them. And they can't be off the farm family. They have to be like congressmen or nobles, royalty. And he's like, no, fuck that. I don't want Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. Once again, not sci-fi, I'm sorry. But there's got to be, he knows where he comes from. It's broken him from one degree or the other, and he's got to make it work because there's people that count on him. He can't fall into his own darkness too far. And I think characters like that will fight harder for their companions and to make sure the big bad or whatever does not win because he knows how bad it could be if they lose. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
So far, so good.
I think what I'm going to end up saying is very similar to what you're going to end up saying. So, yes, continue. Doing a different way. A very different way. The general idea is similar, though. I agree. Is what I'm trying to say. In my weird way of saying it.
I mean, the Boy Scout, I say Scott Summers Cyclops is a dick. I think he is a dick, but he is a perfect example of what a Boy Scout, him and Captain America.
Yep, Paladin.
My first-hand experience of a Boy Scout is a literal psychopath, so I'm not.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yes, he is a bit of a psycho. Having dungeon mastered for that character, that person, I know exactly what the boy's talking about.
So I think because I get brought up earlier that I think Cyclops or Scott Summers is a dick, only because I don't appreciate that.
I think Wolverine's a dick too. So
Wolverine is a dick, but he's gone through a lot to make him a dick. Where Scott Summers coming by it naturally.
No, think about it. He lost. They're both. He and his brother are both orphans, and had to go to school to hone their mutant powers. They were the first X-Men, technically. They were the first. They were the very first. Mutant kids with these powers stuck to the most insane regimen of physical and mental training any kid has ever gone through in the Marvel Universe.
Oh yeah,
with no other purpose in life but to be perfect.
That's why I like Beast.
Beast. I remember. I only saw the cartoons for it. I just like that whole intellectual aspect of it.
Oh, from the 1990s X-Men cartoon.
Yeah, I remember when Beast wasn't furry. And
yeah, so do I.
And he was kind of a comic relief character, but at the same time, he had all these qualities. If he had been shaped a little bit differently, he would have been a Reed Richards. But because of his physical appearance,
right,
he could never excel that way in life, and had to take a different route to find happiness.
You know why he became furry, right?
I can't remember.
He hated the fact that he was a mutant. He absolutely hated it. So he was trying to find a cure for his genetic hiccup. So he was messing around with his own genetic code and thought he found himself a cure. The problem was it didn't diminish the gene; it ramped it up. And that's why he became big and furry. They kind of did it in X-Men First Class, the movie, but they didn't give it the right. That wasn't the comics will always be better than the comic books movies. Unfortunately, but that is what it is. But yeah.
Well, I think some of it, to be fair, and whenever we're talking about the comics, is you don't give enough time to develop the characters in the movie. Whereas the comic book is, this is why I like the series, because the series gives you, like, my favorite in the X-Men was still Gambit.
Gambit.
Gambit was awesome. He was absolutely awesome.
Gambit.
Flawed, scoundrel, but at the same time, heart of gold, kind of maybe, or at least trying, which plays into my qualities, and some of them have been repeated so far. But I like the scoundrel. I like the intelligence. I also like 25% mystery with a past or a secret or something that just constantly, you can never be 100% on this person because of that, let's just say 25% that you're never going to know about. And then the last quality is charm. It's real easy to dump stat your points into charisma, thinking it's not going to have any value, blah, 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 from the earliest days of gaming. But personally, I absolutely, if I had two 18s, one of them is going to be intelligence and one of them is going to be charisma, because I always lived by the old saying, you get more flies with molasses than you do with vinegar. What you can do with intelligence and charm in this world has only been accentuated over the past couple of years. If we look into what guides humanity through the media, etc., those two qualities are so much in demand and valued above all the other things. And when you put them together, you've got a combination of literally controlling just about anybody. One of the reasons why Veidt was my favorite character in The Watchmen was because he had all that going on. He had the mystery, maybe not so much the scoundrel. We didn't find out until the end. Veidt, the bad guy at the end of Watchmen.
Oh, the dick.
Right. He had all of that going for him, but when he was dealing with Lee Iacocca and all the other heads of the big companies, you could see that scoundrel, or dick, whatever you want to call it, rearing its ugly head in conjunction with his charisma and his intellect, and he just whipped those guys into shape in a freaking heartbeat. He had them eaten out of the palm of his hand, and then the next thing you know, they're getting shot by his intellect.
But the problem was with him. Sorry, Jack? Were you going to say something?
No, it was Owen.
So what I was going to say is, but you're talking about that just a little bit, was I think that's what made Iron Man, the first one, so fun, was the Robert Downey Jr. being that cocky bastard, which is high intelligence with that charisma coming out, just made him such a fun character to watch. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Absolutely. He made the Marvel universe a possibility single-handedly. And when they did him dirty, getting rid of him because they couldn't control him.
Wait, when did they do that?
When they canceled his contract.
He didn't. Wait. In game, I don't know where you get your information, but I saw a couple interviews with him, and they asked why did he leave. He's like, it was in game was my senior year of high school, and that's using his words. It was time for my character to graduate, and unfortunately, the only way for my character to graduate was a line that him and Steve had in the very beginning. Steve accused him of not being the guy who jumps on the grenade, not the one who jumps on the line. His response was, "No, I cut it." He jumped on the line. He became a whole person. That was
maybe he said that after the fact, but there was major conflict between him and the people who were making the movies, and that got him. It wasn't his choice to leave, from what I heard.
He was
Maybe that's wrong.
Too damn expensive. He was getting paid more than what the movie was worth at most of the time.
And every penny they put in his pocket, I think, was worth it.
No, I don't disagree.
Right.
At the end of the day, I mean, I look at it this way as, and I'm not a huge superhero fan, just because I'm just not. But I think that part of that, what comes into it is, you're right. At a certain point, and I'm glad that it had the final. They wrapped it up. I haven't even seen the last part of it, but the fact that Disney keeps on trying to drag whatever corpse from Endgame, into their series, is just wrong. There's a certain point where you say, okay, it's time to finish up. It's the same way that I did enjoy, what was it, the 1990s, early 2000s X-Men. Those I thought were really well done. The first one was, but I did like some of that. That's what made Hugh Jackman and several others, along with Wolverine and Logan. I don't like the Wolverine movies, but I thought Logan was fantastic.
Oh, see, this is where we're going to fight, but we can do that later on my stream.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, sorry about that. Jack, I guess it's your turn for...
Yeah, it absolutely is. After hearing everything we all said...
Only two of these are going to be sci-fi. One of them by my definition, the other by Shadow's definition. And the other one is not going to be... Actually, two technically are not going to be anything near sci-fi. So one I already said, Count Dooku. If we want, we can go through them now or later. Then...
Yeah.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay. So Count Dooku, despite, in the movies, he's really only in the second one. Then he just dies in the third one. But that's because each prequel had their own, big bad guy. Because the whole, it's Darth Vader, but 3 or something like that.
Oh, well, Attack of the Clones was so terrible because they made Grievous to be out this big thing, and he was only on there for 2 minutes. And the same thing with Doku. Anyway, go ahead. That was one that really deserved a lot more. But go ahead.
Grievous. Grievous would also be one of my favorites, but not because of his character or anything. It's just because if you've seen the original Clone War show, the 2D one.
Oh yeah.
He is just the most badass thing that is in the entire Star Wars universe.
There's a reason why he has so many lightsabers.
And then he gets beaten by a bunch of Gungans in the 3D show.
Anyway, go ahead. Go
ahead. 3D Grievous I hate, but 2D Grievous is the greatest thing in Star Wars. But
I appreciated his fight with in the movie with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It just felt like Obi-Wan shouldn't have been able to win a single fight against Grievous. Have you just look up Grievous's introduction? Not in the movie, but in the show. He manages to fight 5 Jedi and win.
Obi-Wan Kenobi was able to defeat him because he was able to outthink him.
Here's the problem that I don't disagree with Jack about this.
Right.
I think all too often trying to make it one-on-one, and probably for me watching way too many kung fu films.
Yeah,
I always loved it whenever it took a group of 7 to beat the Grand Master. As they break into his thing and he goes over and he kills 2 or 3 of the main characters, and then that they finally break him down. I was like, yeah, one-on-one they couldn't beat him, but as a group they could. And I think again that comes to me with a lot of things about George Lucas, and especially Attack of the Clones. There was nothing original as far as music in there. I know. Anyway, okay, so don't get me wrong. I think Grievous was cool, and I liked him really well when they were in the series. And you mentioned Doku, which, again, he shows up a lot more in the series than he does in the movie.
And he's a lot better. Not going to say he's better, but he's used better.
If I'm remembering the lore correctly, the whole reason why Count Dooku went to the dark side is because how dirty the council did what's his name's character? Liam Neeson's character.
Yes.
Because they were best friends, and then they grew up together.
I'm pretty sure it was actually that Count Dooku trained not Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon.
They were the same. Yeah, you're right. He was, Liam Nelson's character was his Padawan. You're right.
So they had very similar ideas. So when the whole, which is why Qui-Gon probably wouldn't have stayed with the Jedi much longer if he would have lived. He would have been denied the ability to train Anakin, and he would have said, "Screw you guys, I'm going off on my own and training him anyways." He just wouldn't have turned to the dark side. But then Dooku did because other reasons, and then the whole separatism thing, weird trade policy and politics, which is the real reason why I like the prequels.
Oh, the prequels had a great foundation, and execution was horrible.
So
Yeah.
there's a novel, or there's a novel, a Doctor Who novel it was featured Tennant as the Doctor, and anyways, the Tennant he is wearing a bag, a little just a bag that had Jar Jar Binks on it, and one of the companions were just giving him shit. It's like, I didn't know you were a Star Wars fan, and he's like, what? He looks at his bag. He's like, oh, then he names he names a race. He's like, she's like, what? He points to the bag. He's like, that's that race. And George Lucas in his infinite wisdom can't tell when he's being psychically, fucked with, because that race reached throughout the cosmos and put that race in those movies just because they could.
Oh,
Hold on, what?
but what he's saying is that the race that the Gungans were based off of decided to troll George Lucas to put him into the movies.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So the Gungans are real, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Well, in the Doctor Who universe.
Oh, okay. The Gungans.
Hey, I'm staying on topic tonight, Shadow. I'm staying with sci-fi.
Let's go.
Jeff,
Yes.
what other characters do you like from different movies? I mean, you've only mentioned two, but just
Yes.
what characters do you like? You don't have to pick your favorites. Just what characters have you liked?
Well, we already went on a huge discussion about Iron Man. Also, Arthur Morgan
Which was
I know
Arthur
that.
Morgan?
from Red Dead Redemption 2.
Okay. I haven't watched that. Okay, I haven't played that game.
Okay. Also, Dutch Vanderlyn, who is in both games, but I just kind of like him because of his voice.
Okay.
Okay.
That isn't the actual reason, but
It's like I like any character that smokes cigars.
Slow down for it, because we're going to transition to the next question, because
Wait,
you're kind of
what?
already halfway there. Yeah, we're going to, because when you hear the question, you're going to understand why. Villains. We talked about the heroes for the most
many
part.
great villains out there.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
if you guys were going to make up a villain.
okay, I'm going first. I don't care what you guys say.
Okay.
No, I already said you're going first.
Oh, okay. So I still don't care what you guys say. I'm going first.
Everybody gets a turn to go first.
All right. So
Banks
I'm
of
not
them.
gonna go off of anything anybody else has done, and I'm gonna use what I have done, because despite the fact that I'm probably not very good at this and it will probably end up being bad, I don't care. I'm gonna talk about it. So the way I'm kind of going about it with making the main villain is there's technically two, but there's technically really only one. Because in my story there's this like big, how in like sci-fi stories it's always a dystopia where there's big evil empire and then the rebels trying to destroy it. Change names however you want.
Mm-hmm.
So the big bad is kind of like almost like if the Emperor from Star Wars was a Lovecraftian being. If
Oh,
you've
wow.
seen, yeah, he basically was like trapped he kind of trapped himself in a way, but a certain set of events happened which was directly due to what the Emperor did, because the Emperor, who was like in control of pretty much the entire galaxy, was at war with like the only other nation that existed, as well as a major rebel group. And some things happened, and he decided, screw these guys, I'm not fighting this war, I'm nuking them. Except instead of nukes, it's basically black hole bombs. So after that, a chain of events leads to the overthrowing of the Empire and a formation of a new, freer galactic republic, despite the fact that this new state is under the watchful eye of Cthulhu, pretty much. Or I guess Yog-Sothoth is a more accurate description of who this character is. Actually, now that I think about it, wouldn't he be more like... It doesn't matter. So this is in control of the
fact that
galaxy.
your Cthulhu is blowing everybody away to begin with. So just
Well, I'm laughing about the whole thing because like it doesn't matter whether it's Niall Thorpe or whatever.
I was gonna say Nyarlathotep is actually the most accurate description of who this guy is.
Okay. The reason I'm just joking about it is don't get lost too much in the weeds.
Yeah. But
Don't smoke the weeds either.
yeah, I don't want to do that. But even though he's
Drugs
like
are bad.
the dictator, the absolute authority in this universe, he really isn't the main villain, because the whole like thing about it is the whole. I won't get too deep into it, but it's basically that like people when like the idea that people that there are people who exist who don't care that something is bad. Just the whole idea, like, oh, if it doesn't hurt anybody, do it. That whole thing, it's kind of a criticism of that.
Okay.
And this state, which is this new republic, is kind of a embodiment of that. But the actual, like, real main villain is almost like the second in command, the guy who is like he's the primary, like the Himmler to Nyarlathotep's Hitler. That's who this
Wow.
is.
I know, right, guys?
Like the
This is what I
leader
get to deal with on a daily basis.
on a weekly basis. Give me some credit.
All right, that does it, Shadow. I'm coming to visit. I'm going to stay with you guys for a week. You're going to show me the fine arts of arts and craft. And me and your kid are going to be doing nothing but talking about politics and everything else. It's going to be a great vacation for myself.
Holy crap. I mean, I'm trying to get my kid away from politics. I'm like, look, boy, you can't vote. Just focus on improving yourself, okay? When you can vote, then worry about the rest of it.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong to a certain degree, but I think kids like Jack, I'm going to throw my daughter into it because she's stuck with me and she deals with it anyways. I think they at least need to know what type of people are running the country so when they get old enough, they know what not to look for.
Oh, no. I do teach that. I'm just referring to the fact of, let's not play left and right. That's why he got kicked out of his mom, and she broke down crying. But I just,
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Well, see, here at the Shadow household, we want our little guy to run for president, even if he doesn't make it. We at least want him to get there. That way, he's earned enough success in life to where he can pay for our retirement and keep us.
Oh, you want you want your son to be a millionaire because that's the only way you can become president.
I'm okay with that.
My hope is that he becomes like Eisenhower, where Eisenhower was asked by both parties to run as president. And what I also thought was funny was when he retired, he said, "Do not call me president, call me general," because he hated politics so much.
That's also fair.
I was going to. Okay, let's go. You were going to say something now for
my favorite villain.
Yes.
Sci-fi or comics.
Well, what I was really trying to get at is how would you design a really let's just go with the word unique and not trope, not too overly
too tropey. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Make it an interesting, believable, and somewhat scary villain.
Well, here's the thing. Connell can go, but I still. Here's the thing. You got me on this, and I think I can go. I can talk about this particular character for 5 hours if I really had to, but just
make your own channel and we'll talk.
Okay, I don't know. I haven't really said much.
No. I'm just messing with you, buddy. I've heard all about it, but they haven't, and I think it is actually it's awesome that he, even from the earliest of age, I could see the storyteller in him when he was playing with his friends. It's some sort of genetic thing going on with him. He's just got the DM gene, the storyteller gene in him, and yeah, I think it's awesome.
Okay, villain. All right. You bear with me because this is going to be a little bit of this is going to be a little bouncy.
Okay.
I want my villain trope, my villain not to be tropey. All right, the villain has to understand and read Nikolai Machiavelli, the Prince. He has to be a dictator to a degree, but good to his people and fuck the entire everybody else, like Victor Von Doom.
That's who I was just thinking of when you said that.
He has to be a Magneto of sorts, a survivor of a war that was put against his people. And to make sure nothing like that ever happens to his people like that ever again, he's blinded by his own self-righteousness. What?
I want to say, but I don't know if I should.
Life experiences that he thinks the rest of the universe, the world, whatever, would be better controlled by his dominion.
So kind of like a. Oh, wait, hold on.
I hate.
Never mind the time.
Absolutely hate stupid villains. I cannot stand them. I want a Hannibal Lecter. I want a Genghis Khan who wasn't really a villain, but you know what I'm going with.
He was a villain to everyone who wasn't him.
Vlad the Impaler. I want somebody who thinks he's doing what's right for his people, that the rest of the world will bend down to his knees. And yes, this is very like Hitler-ish, but not Hitler. Because Hitler was a fucking idiot who just had people that was able to control him off to the side.
Hitler wasn't an idiot, and the Madman Hitler theory is kind of dumb because it kind of plays down Hitler's, evil.
I blame whatever art institute said no to him for Hitler. Or I blame whatever baseball team said no to Castro.
I wasted so much CIA money.
Well, yeah, we can go on that.
But anyways, I think those make the best villains, and that's the type of villain I want in my campaign. The guy that cannot see past his own kingdom. His people live with the best schools, with the best healthcare, the best food. They want for naught. But to make sure that their safety is secure, he will burn down the world around them.
All right, I've got my character here.
That's actually kind of like my, not necessarily hero, but main character.
Your dad?
Okay, kind of like you, yes, but the main character of my story is kind of like that, or at least used to be like that before his empire collapsed.
So I'm going to bring up my favorite character, and I'm not quite sure where this fits because it is a little fancy. It is a little sci-fi. Xanatos from Gargoyles, which meets everything that Connell has said. Because one is I like the charm. One is they have to be charming, so you have to like to watch whenever they're on screen. They steal the screen. You have to watch them. Number two is for every time that their plan is defeated, they're moving ahead by 1 or 2 steps. So you're thinking, oh, we beat him. He's like, no, this went in the direction that I wanted. I haven't lost anything, or I've lost this, but that allows me to get ahead here. Shadow already mentioned Bester. I mean, it's the same thing. Is I want my villains to be incredibly competent. That's the one thing I hate. That they do that too often in in cartoons and stuff. But my villains to be competent, incredibly competent. That's one thing. I want them to have motivations that are more than just themselves. They're looking over and they're saying, I'm not looking just for myself. I'm looking at putting my name down for the next 500 years, for that. And then the other character I'm going to mention, which I know Shadow probably likes too, is Mr. Morton, who you always feel like you want to take as a Bester had it. Okay, go ahead.
Who?
Can I interrupt just for a second? Did you know that Morton was in season 1, but not as Morton?
I may have heard that. I don't remember which part he played.
He's wearing a white shirt on the bridge of Babylon 5. He's like an officer, but he's just wearing like a white shirt. In like 1 or 2 episodes, he's just a regular, Bab 5, guy. And I'm like, what? Because I was watching it like a second time, and I'm like, that's freaking him. What the hell? Yeah, so next time you watch Bab 5, look for him. You will see him where he doesn't belong.
I liked Mr. Morton. Even if they're not at the top level, I like that level like one below, where they're the power behind the throne. I mean, and I don't know how a lot of people look at it. I know they all look at, but the other one I enjoy, which is there's nothing redeemable about him, but he's a great villain, is Baron Harkonnen Wundoon.
Oh, well.
Dude. God,
I'm right there behind you until you read behind the lines and realize he's a pedophile. And I'm like,
that guy is. He is one of the most detestable characters of all time.
He is, but the one thing that you have to give him credit for is he's competent, but there is nothing redeemable. Unlike, like you said with Bester, there's some kind of humanity. In Baron Harkonnen, there is none. And you look over at his Raban, which Raban did not seem as stupid. At least the newer movie was good for that. But in the book, Raban was not as dumb as they made him in the 1984 movie. And then Fade Routha, you look at him and it's just like, you can see the plans within plans. And he has everything. Well, you think it's this. No, we're going to do this. And he's trying to explain it to them. And you realize there is no one better than Baron Harkonnen in his position. And that's the hyper competence in there. That said I really do like Xanatos, because I like the ones that have a code of honor that they follow in there. And that's why I mentioned him. It's because he went over, like, I will let you get away this time. And especially in a role-playing game, I like that kind of thing where if the players do the right thing that helps them out, he's like, I'll kill you another day, but today you'll get to live. And I love that aspect.
Well, you said you watched the 1990s X-Men cartoon, right?
Yeah.
All right. Apocalypse.
It's been a while since that.
There is a great line.
That's a good example. That guy.
There was a great line from him. I mean, there's several great lines, but the one line is when he was making that the plague that basically kills humans, but it looks like mutants are the cause. And the Congressman Kelly's like, "You're a mutant," and he says, "I am far beyond a mutant as they are from you." He knows exactly who and what he is, and once again, he thinks humans are weak, therefore he wants to knock them all off the table and make sure his children, the mutants, because they really are his children, survive. And yeah, I think he's a really interesting villain.
And actually, that's where Darth Vader was coming into it for some of it, but yeah, it's help me out, Rose.
James, what are we going to do with you?
Hey, James,
my mouse is silly, but as we speak.
Anglicanism, you have to remember it's Anglicanism. That's the way to integrate it. No, I'm just
okay, I agree with you there.
I'm just teasing. I don't.
I am.
But I love those. It doesn't matter where they are, but man, having a good villain and really the hero is met by having great villains. The hero can really stand up, and so if you have a great villain in there, that allows your hero to be so much more. If you have an incompetent villain, then a perfect example. And I hate saying this is let's look at He-Man. Oh, we're doing this. Skeletor is worthless. I mean, Bruce Lombardo does Skeletor so much better as being far more intelligent and useful than anyone else. Sorry, I just had to. I had to throw it in there whenever that's this little Skeletor thing.
Yeah.
He-Man and the Masters of the Dipshits. My name is Adam, and I'm secretly gay. But don't tell my parents. Only my tiger friend knows.
Oh, but wait a minute. But when I'm He-Man, I'm going to be doing the Sorceress and Grayskull. So.
The early 2000 He-Mans was a great deal better than the original. I'm sorry.
Of course it was. It was 1980s. Did you see the one where they had the? Sorry, we're derailing some of it. The GI Joe one where they started killing off all the characters.
Yeah, it was like what was that?
It was a Cartoon
Robot
Network.
Chicken. Yeah, Robot Chicken, where Fumbles killed off all of the GI Joe team.
No. This was They actually had a GI Joe cartoon with blood and everything else.
Oh,
It only aired for a couple seasons, like 1 or 2.
I thought it was just like a movie. It was like a 2-hour thing or
It
something.
might have been that they cut down into a couple episodes.
It was something like that. I thought it was really cool, but you can't find it. Just like I can't. Speaking of which, if we're going to talk about a little bit of science fiction, what about Mandark from Dexter's Lab?
Wasn't that the other Brainiac kid?
But yeah, it was a little Brainiac kid. But you can't watch Ego Trip. I can't find Ego Trip anywhere. Like I can watch Dexter's Lab, but I can't watch Ego Trip. I'm like, what the hell? But
Man, I can't watch that show without thinking of Big Bang Theory, and I can't watch Big Bang Theory without thinking of Dexter's Lab.
Well, I
didn't
like
watch
watching
much of either show. Dexter's was incredible.
Yeah, Dexter's Lab, the Samurai Jack, especially that last season where they really upped some of the violence.
Yeah, Jandy Tartarsky or something like that.
Yeah,
Who did all those cartoons? He also did the first version of Clone Wars, I believe.
Right.
He
Primal.
Yeah.
Primal was the caveman from Dexter's Lab. Dexter's Lab is Primal.
And boy, that's bloody. I've still got like 6 episodes left or so to watch in season 2. That's it. Yes, James L., I agree with you there. Just don't be the drugged Marine for Caladan that has to fight Fade Routha.
Well, I like villains, and it's really weird because you don't see that very often. I like villains in movies, sci-fi or just normal movies, where at the end of it you start to feel for the villain, and he's like, well, I don't want him to get away with this, but I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, that's exactly like with Veidt from The Watchmen. Like I always say, growing up in the 80s and that what felt like a real threat of nuclear Armageddon, I could understand without, condoning or condemning why he did what he did. He thought that we were all going to die from, a war with Russia. And he came up with a way to make everybody never want that to happen. And, it was pretty messed up if you think about it, but, it worked. That's what was so weird and different in a superhero show. The bad guy, wins.
Well, not only that the bad guy won, but that he technically the bad guy also in a way saved the world.
Right. And convinced all the other, or at least convinced, Manhattan to go along with it.
Poor Rorschach.
Rorschach was the best character.
Yes and no. My heart will
objectively wrong.
My heart will always go with the comedian. I detest some of the things he did, but once again, I get him.
I think he should have been shot.
He did nothing to warrant his existence. Every single scene he was in, he was a.
Kennedy.
He was. It's like the Punisher. He realistically is like the Punisher.
He was nothing like the Punisher. He was fucking evil. He was a rapist, murdering piece of shit. He murdered his own fucking child.
I need to reread the comic then. I don't remember that from the comic.
That Vietnamese girl who came in and said,
that's right. That's right.
You kill the woman with your baby in it. You go straight to
no, you're right. I get that. I guess my aspect with him is
I can tell you what it is. It's the guy who played him was one of the greatest actors of all time.
Yeah, yeah. That. So you're thinking I like the character because of the actor?
Part of it.
That it just. Yeah. I don't know. I'll get back to you on that one with him.
I like it. I like him too because of that. But the character was that's what made the movie so great. Is that you had these characters that were both sides of their same fucking coin, the good and the evil, within themselves, right out there for everyone to see.
Yeah.
Rorschach was a fucking smelly ass, unhygienic fucking psycho
Unchained monster, but
with a heart of a paladin.
Yeah.
Night Owl was a freaking cowardly hero.
Venus though, Saturn girl was fucking hot,
and she was, had no. Yeah, there was not much there.
That's like the only way you
her
can
top,
describe her
she
is
has
he
nothing
was
to
there.
See, but I don't know. This might just be a life experience. That life is a joke, just no one's catched on yet.
I can sum it up. I can sum it all up. Who watches The Watchmen? That's what it was all about. These heroes were just as much villains as heroes. They were trying, but they were so flawed that they could never go all the way.
Right.
Except for maybe Rorschach, but that's just it.
Well, season 2 of the Netflix Daredevil. I don't know if any of you guys watched the Daredevil on Netflix.
Mm.
The Daredevil goes up against the Punisher, and the Punisher and him are having an argument on a roof that almost copies an argument they had in comic books, which I thought was amazing. But Deadpool's like not Deadpool. Punisher was talking to Daredevil, as I said. He's like, the problem with you heroes are people like you. And Daredevil's like, what? Half measures. You never finish it. You beat the shit out of them. You send them to prison. They get right back out, and they go do it again. A bullet would solve all the problems. Kill them, be done with them, and you don't have to deal with them ever again. And I read that comic book. The comic book is based off as a kid, and I think that was part of the reason why I don't like Batman. I hate heroes that only do half measures.
Oh, speaking of a good villain, you talk about Batman, Mr. Freeze.
Oh yeah. Oh, I never really saw him as a villain.
Understand though, with Batman, you have to understand. The problem with Batman is not Batman. The problem with Batman is the world, the real world, not being able to accept a Punisher that was the Batman until after a certain point in time, and then they created the Punisher instead.
Right. That's why I like what was it? Red Hood? Yeah, Red Hood. Jason Todd's character. Because that was as close to the Punisher as DC's ever going to get.
I don't think it was Red Hood. It was Red something else, though.
No, it's Red Hood.
Yeah. Because
Red Hood was somebody else.
No, Red Hood was originally one of the stories of the Joker, who Joker could have been. Then when Jason Todd came back, he took the mantle as the Red Hood.
Okay.
Read or watch an animated movie called
Killing Joke.
Under the Red Hood. It's a Batman cartoon.
I read Killing Joke long before that was a thing.
Wow. Yeah, Killing Joke. That's a rough one.
Yeah. I'm going to bring a little bit different there because we are, when you're starting to do stuff with comics, well, one is, are you going to kill off every villain that they face? At which point you lose a lot of that aspect. The other part is,
they won't risk the sales and the controversy and all that. Yeah, that was my point. Is that especially Silver Age, the 70s and whatnot, they couldn't have Batman do what Batman would have really done. He would have come to a point long before the Silver Age. It's like that's why he used to carry a freaking gun. Okay, well, Batman used to carry a gun, and he used it because that's but they said, "Oh, we can't have that," and then that changed.
Now, every time you try to make Batman have a gun, people think you're stupid because, according to what Batman is now, it would be stupid.
Well, that's why I like the Ben Affleck Batman, because he's the he's the grumpier version of Batman. He's the Dark Knight from Frank Miller's Batman. He's just tired of this shit. And instead of, after a while, we sort of become what we deal with. That's why he was starting to kill them off. He was done.
I mean, we can talk about that. If you're going to talk about great villains, what about the Kingpin?
Kingpin? Yeah.
Which interpretation?
I mean, for Marvel,
that kind of segues into my answer, because we are running close to cutoff time here. For me, one of the things you absolutely have to have to make a great villain is power. Your villain has to have power. Otherwise, you're really just dealing with a criminal. If your villain has power, whether it's Shredder or Doctor Doom or Apocalypse or Vader.
Wait, Shredder from the X-Men? I mean, Shredder from the Ninja Turtles?
Yes. He had power in the comic book.
Oh, he got me there.
He had fucking power. Criminal, Kingpin, underworld crime boss, some sort of actual power because power is what corrupts these people to begin with. At some point, these lowly criminals get some sort of power and become villains as opposed to just criminals. That's the difference, in my opinion, is the raw power. And whether it be sci-fi or fantasy, I like my villains to have some sort of power that allows them to think that they're better than the law, the people around them, the world, God, what have you. They have something that corrupts them to make them think that they can control the world the way they want to control it, regardless of everything that's come before them and that surrounds them. They're whatever kind of power, whether it's, being a politician, a monarch, a super strong, super powered individual, rich beyond, normal people. That power is, for me, what tips them over the edge. And without that, you're just dealing with, not quite a boss.
Did you ever read the Russian version of Superman?
I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Yeah, where Superman landed in Soviet Stalinist Russia.
Yeah.
No, but I do remember the Saturday Night Live skit where he landed in Germany during a certain era.
Oh my God, Hitler would have had an orgasm.
We've said Hitler several times on the stream. You can say it.
Well, what gets me about the whole thing, and I think that people forget about this, is whether people like. I mean, you can see it now.
Great choice, James.
Is that it doesn't matter when you look at during times of great upheaval and of insecurity, people will go over to whoever promises them a better life and starts actually showing that to them. Now, we're not saying it.
I've actually heard pretty convincing arguments for that. Do I agree? No, I haven't seen it, but I've heard arguments.
Oh, you've got to see Batman Lego. That was awesome.
Oh,
wait a freaking.
Wasn't the Joker in that movie gay, though?
What's that?
Wasn't the Joker in that movie gay?
It doesn't
No.
matter. Stop worrying about what the villain is. He has to fight velociraptors, snake clowns, Sauron, the Kraken from
Clash of the Titans.
It is awesome. Just watch the whole thing. At one point, I love the fact that he says, "All right, Rope, I put you in charge." It's hilarious. But yes, I still think that's the best Batman was Lego. If you watch it, come back and then say, "Well."
I don't know where you and your dad get your information from, but I find a different source, man.
But no, but I agree with Shadow. There's power, but I think there's something that comes, and I won't say it's internal power. It's competence, the ability to move through. That's the
right. That's what sets them apart from just a corrupt politician or a shitty leader. You got to have that competence with the power, but because you could just have competence and be a bad guy, but I don't know that I would elevate him to villain. If you know what I mean, you got to have I think a nice mixture of the two.
I
was really
like a bounty hunter that's following
Lobo.
I was thinking actually, if anyone remembers from Serenity where they had Jubal early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not, or even, and like you said, there is the power behind the. I forgot what the guy's name was from Serenity. He is given free reign to move, even if he's not having everyone behind him. I love that thing of where the main protagonist is afraid. This is someone change. A perfect example of someone that doesn't have a lot of power, but I really enjoyed her was Ventress from the Clone Wars.
Oh, wasn't that the first Sith princess?
The bald girl.
Yeah.
I don't remember much about it, but I think I remember liking her, but I don't know enough.
I think that it was
Asajj Ventress.
Asajj Ventress, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't even ask me how I remember that name. You know how I remember that game? From the stupid Star Wars video game my son and I used to play. Galaxy of Heroes. Yeah, I know.
There's so many great things, I think, but I do enjoy that. I really love what I want is I want someone that forces the protagonist to move forward, because if they don't, this person will take them out. And I love it whenever it requires them and their friends to take them out. It's not just one-on-one.
There was a video game, a DC video game called Injustice, where Superman,
I wanted to play that game, but I had a feeling it was going to be more button mashing than role playing.
It was the comic book. The comic book that came out for the storyline is amazing. By the way,
I've heard a summary.
Well, what was? Didn't they do part of that with the And I'll be honest, the 1990s, as far as animation, were great for some of this Batman, Superman, that whole DC line. They did a fantastic job with those. I think that's one of those and I think they did an equivalent of an Injustice aspect in there.
Where Joker gets Superman to kill Lois because he thought he's fighting Doomsday. Superman loses his ever-living fucking mind and breaks into the police station where Batman is dealing with the Joker because Batman doesn't kill. Right? Batman refuses to kill, and Joker is basically just ramming on Joker, haha, all the power of a god, ... and you couldn't save the person you love. But Superman reaches over, grabs the Joker, puts his hand through his chest, and pulls out the Joker's heart.
Oh,
Epic.
I think that those are, speaking of that, what is it? Is it Darkseid?
Yeah, Darkseid's pretty cool.
Darkseid was another one that was great as far as a villain for Superman. I think that's one of the problems that I have is it's hard to get well. And to be honest, another one I really enjoyed more from the comic was more from the cartoon was Lex Luthor. If you remember him, where it's like, this is my city, this is what I'm doing, and that exactly matches what Connell was talking about his villains and what he
was kind of like a skinnier, smarter Kingpin.
Yes, and he used his, I'll just get up a super suit if I have to go fight one of the big guys. But yeah, I always loved it. This is my city, and if anyone tries screwing with it, I will defend it, and I'll be Superman, even if it's against my long-term interest. This is my city. I like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, in what I'm doing, I mean, you want a villain at least, I can see why some people having a dumb villain is beneficial to what they're doing if they're making like some garbage like kid show thing or whatever. But at the same time, it's like you should always want your villain to be at least you should always want your main villain to be really smart. Having them be really strong is beneficial, but depending on the story, they don't have to be.
They should be.
It could
They
almost be a
should be
dump
the
stat.
counterbalance to the hero. So if the hero is smart and intelligent, the villain has to be smart and intelligent.
Yeah.
If the hero is nothing but bronze, like He-Man, the villain needs to be nothing but brains. What was it? Unbreakable.
Yes.
The Bruce
Mr.
Willis movie.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't have to be exact opposites, because
And typically,
Yeah.
when the hero is smart, the villain should be smarter.
yeah,
You're not going to have the hero be super smart but not very strong, and then the villain's super strong but very dumb. That's not the main villain. That's one of his henchmen.
I mean, if you look at the Riddler, yeah, I mean, I thought that's where the Arkham Knight and Arkham Asylum.
Those games are great.
Those are great games for it, and I really enjoyed it. Well, that and the female figures are awesome.
I mean, say what you want about Mark Hamill, but he will always be my Joker.
Oh, he's great for it, but I love that aspect of Batman is highly intelligent, but the Joker is a little bit more intelligent, and so is
I
the
watched
Riddler.
this pretty good video on why the Joker is the best Batman villain, and it's basically that Batman is a better lateral thinker, but the problem with the Riddler is that he's so egotistical that he's put his own plans, he's destroyed them just so that people would know how smart he is. There's also this the comic that he used as the example, which is part of this big like graphic novel thing called Batman Black and White. It's this choose you. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I read a lot of comics.
Yeah, I can tell.
Hey, is that judgment I hear in my nephew's voice?
I genuinely don't know if that's a judgment or not. I just realized I can probably turn on my camera now.
Oh, speaking of which, I'm gonna bring one little thing up. Is Shadow? Have you been looking through the Warlord stuff I sent? Or
I
did that?
just had a call about it.
But yeah, I always like the whole point of it is that your hero wants to be an underdog. I think, or your protagonist rather, you want them to be an underdog that's fighting against something bigger. It gives them that. But yeah, to me, you always need the foil. You don't want. I mean, I always laugh at it, but you get like Chairface with the Tick. It's.
Oh God!
I know.
Chairface Chippendale, one of the most ridiculous villains of all time. Yes, that was fucking. Just what was that guy smoking?
A lot.
I love it.
The main rule for villains is that the villain should typically be smarter than the hero. Because if the villain is just dumber, or they're not at least equal in some way or equivalent,
Right, you do have a good point.
then you're not really going to get much. If your main villain needs to be at least of equivalent intelligence. That's the baseline. They don't have to be smart in the same ways. Just yeah.
Well, I think everything that comes into it is the villain needs to be able to highlight the strengths of your hero. So by making them intelligent, it shows often how intelligent your hero is. By making them strong, it allows your hero to be strong, or that can include numbers. And I think it really allows that. But I still think Bane's a great villain too, who is both intelligent and stronger than Batman. and that forces Batman to really dig deep into some of his reserves to figure out how to defeat him.
What was it? Season 2 of The Punisher on Netflix. The main bad guy realizes, with the help of his girlfriend, that the guy who plays Punisher only kills bad guys. What would happen if he actually kills a good person? Well, what happens is they said that, what?
I saw that season in the episode where he goes into complete downward spiral.
Yeah, that's how you shut down. That's how you shut down that type of anti-hero. You make him think that he killed somebody who was innocent, and he just shuts down. You just pulled the plug. He was ready to turn himself into turn himself in. He was going to go to prison. He was done.
Well, and I didn't see this, but I thought this was in Daredevil. I'm not sure which one, but where they had Fisk, the versus the Punisher.
In the prison scene.
That clip in the
that was season 2 of Daredevil. Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that I like about having that is now you're going, okay, and I have to agree with Shadow on this, the charm. When you have that charm, where they're oozing charisma, so you understand why they got into power, and it's not just because they're strong, and it's not just because they're intelligent. It's because they have they have as Scott Adams likes to talk about, the talent stack. I am strong, I am competent, I am intelligent, and I am charismatic, so people will follow me. All those things.
Yeah. I can't pronounce his last name, but Vincent, whatever it is, plays a great Kingpin.
Oh, yeah. Just look at that clip. I was like, oh, yeah, I agree with you on that.
I mean, yeah, he was the guy. Remember Men in Black Shadow?
Mm-hmm.
He was the abusive husband that the cockroach.
Oh yeah, he was also in that crime drama series.
Law and Order, Criminal Intent.
Was that it? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm addicted to those shows. Always have been.
Oh well, if you want to talk
I did like Criminal Minds. I did watch most of it that was on Netflix.
Criminal Minds bothers me. I can watch it. I just something about that show just always fucks with me.
It was amazing that it went on as long as it did without Mandy Patinkin, even though Mandy can go freaking kick rock.
He left that show because he thought that show was hurting his soul. I can respect
that, but with some of the other things he's done, I'm like...
He's only should have done 2 things. Princess Bride, and I can't think of anything else.
Does the name George San Francisco ring a bell?
Yeah, but I don't know why.
Alien Nation.
Yes.
Oh, right, the TV series.
Yeah.
He was the alien. He was George San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
And I think it was only in the movie.
Okay, Princess Bride in Alien Nation. Then he just should have called it quits and done Broadway, because he's a Broadway theater actor anyways.
Prima donna is what he is. He's a fucking prima donna.
Not all, a lot of actors are, and some directors.
Mm-hmm, absolutely true. Well, guys, it's almost closing time. We have as you guys, most of you know, we have an engagement with Nathan Allen's the Quantum Show. It's a paranormal show. If you guys have not seen it, please go over and check it out. He started about an hour ago, and he just got back from an all-day paranormal convention, and I can't wait to hear what he's got going on. Yeah, I know, and he's got some new ghost busting gear, and I'm not sure if the little guy's going to be joining us or doing homework, but I'm going to be having a smoke break, and then I'm going over there. James L. Ullman, of course, you're welcome to join us. Arn Man, and anybody else in chat, just tell Nathan I sent you over there. If it's not your thing, I get it. But if it is, definitely go over there. Give him a thumbs up. Give him a sub if you're into it. He's a good friend of mine and has been for quite some time. And
Yo. Are you able to? I don't know if you're able to do it, but are you able to, when this stream ends, that it kicks you over to the to his channel?
Oh, what the Max does.
Oh no, I don't know how to do that.
Okay, I was just curious because I wasn't sure if this I wasn't sure if that was one of those that requires a certain number of subs either. That's why I was just asking.
Yeah, no, I just learned how to copy paste thanks to GM Fritz on Friday. So now I can start doing some of that, but that's about as much as it took me a little while. Well, I didn't know. My son showed me one way, and it took like a bunch of steps that I just couldn't memorize.
You're a liar.
And then Fritz told me a real simple way to do it. That works for me. And again, Omen, thank you so much for the gift of Warlord. As soon as I get a little bit of spare time, I downloaded the comic reader, and I got through the first page, and then something interrupted me, and I haven't been able to actually read anything, but I'm going to read the hell out of that comic book until I'm done with it.
I'm going to say this much, and I know we're going to quick it up. One is, can you put the link into Nathan Allen's show into the chat?
Only if I leave the show.
Oh, really?
If you guys want, you know what? I can do that real quick. I'll just come right back.
Okay.
Just hang out here, guys.
Hey, really quick, Omen, are you going to join us tomorrow on our my show at 4? We're talking about Fire in the Sky.
Probably not, because I actually am going to see one of my actual, like flesh and blood friends.
I don't believe you. No.
You have flesh and blood friends?
I do not believe this.
Friends?
What kind of heresy is this? All right, what are you doing later on Sunday evening then?
Maybe I can be free from that. We'll see. Because I'll probably telework on Monday, so that shouldn't be a problem.
And he left again.
Well, no. He said he was going to, so he could do a copy and paste. Because
I will probably have a second show tomorrow night.
All right.
Just for the shenanigans.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think we're gonna have another discussion about like villains or something because, I have a feeling.
Here's the reason: is every time I try looking up, there we go. Because I haven't tried looking up to see what you guys are talking about. I'm like, I can't find the channel, so that's why I really appreciate you putting the link.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, 2 things. One, Connell, we're going to have to do the show late tomorrow because Jack has got another appointment with a school thing with his air show that he's got to be at. So we're hoping we can do the show later like we did last week later, and then we can go bug like Victor or something during the daytime maybe and just tag team on his channel. And yes, there is the link for Nathan Allen, for anybody who's interested. And I really appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight. It was nice and cozy and polite and respectful. And to be honest, it was a fun conversation.
That was really on topic.
Kind of. We all did. It was a good show. You guys all did great. You all brought in a lot of good stuff to the conversation. Yeah, sometimes little guy feels a little, he hasn't watched as much sci-fi as us. He's still young, and I need to, sit him down in front of some good sci-fi instead of some TikTok videos or whatever the kids are watching these days.
That stuff is disgusting.
Also, such a weird teenager.
Mention in this household.
Hey,
such a weird teenager.
Hey, Jack. I have a child almost your same age, and he has things. I'm like, okay, son, whatever. There's no accounting for taste, and at a certain point, you have to go through the bad before you realize there's some good out there. No,
only thing you should be worrying about is school
and girls.
No. Nope. In that order: school and girls. And how much longer do I have to wait till I can drive?
Oh, you know what?
I'm going to take the opportunity to end this video with a quote from that psychopathic Boy Scout, who I mentioned earlier, and it is "You Speak to Women." Good night.
Okay. All right. Have a good night.
Love you, sport. I'll see you in just a few minutes.
Oh my God, Jack, you're the reason why I'm drinking tonight.
Yeah. Hey, Cal, I don't know if you saw the link, but I know you usually join us. Sorry you were late to this show, but you're more than welcome to join us over on Nathan's channel. I only got the smaller set too, but then I made an order with Miniature Market, and my order has been sitting in queue for like 21 days because Miniature Market moved from one location to another. Hopefully I'll get the rest of the speed paints because Army Painter speed paints rock. Wait till you see what I did on some 25 millimeter miniatures this week.
I need to get some. I need to get some. I just cannot financially do it right now.
That's why you got to go to Miniature Market. You get them for like $3.90 a bottle. If you spend $100, you get shipping free.
I got a discount at my game shop.
Okay.
I just financially can't do it this month.
Fair enough. But we are going to say goodnight. Hopefully, like 5 o'clock, maybe tomorrow, Connell. If that's not too late, I'm gonna.
5 o'clock your time.
Yeah, it's 7 your.
6 my time. Okay, that's not a problem.
Well, isn't it a 2-hour difference? Isn't it a 2-hour difference?
What time is it there now? It's only 9 there.
9:21.
It's 11 here. So you say 5 o'clock. It's going to be 7 o'clock for me. We'll make it work.
Okay, cool. And I'll get a hold of Mark, and also I'll send him. I'll hook you guys up so you guys can communicate as well. Everybody else in the chat, we love you guys. You too, Kyle, of course, and Jackie. I'll see you guys all in just a few minutes, but I'm dying for a cigarette. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hey, Shadow, really quick before you wander off.